Good morning. Thank you again all so much for being here with me today. I am excited to talk about this topic, matrix auto email. We've had a lot of interest and I often get a lot of questions about this when I teach the matrix courses. It's one of those things that a lot of members like us to cover. And so I thought this would be a good way to share that. My information is on the screen there. So if you have any questions for me, anything again along the way, if you've got any questions along the way, submit those with the chat, but also email or call if you need anything else. I am a full-time employee here at HAR, so this is basically what I do, is help our members. So if you need me, let me know. And good morning, it's Steve and Michelle also. Thanks for hopping in and letting me know y'all are all there and that y'all can hear me. It's always so exciting to know that I'm not talking to myself. All right, so moving on into our content today. Most everything I'm going to be doing is live on Matrix, so I don't have a lot of PowerPoint slides per se, but just enough that you've got my contact info and a little reference to what the program is and does. All right, so what is the auto email? The name is pretty self-explanatory. It automatically delivers emails to a consumer. The idea is you can set up a custom search, which it's technically called. You put in whatever criteria is relevant to that consumer, and then it'll automatically email new price change and status change listings to that consumer. It carbon copies you on everything, blind carbon copies you technically, so you know what's going, when it went, what it looks like, what it said. You also have a little bit more advanced option to use concierge mode. So rather than anything and everything that meets their criteria being delivered automatically, you can pick and choose which you would like to deliver. And then once consumers receive those, they do have the ability to kind of categorize properties, make notes, and of course reach out to you if they need anything else or clarification or anything like that. So we'll be looking at, again, live examples of all of that good stuff, but in a nutshell, that's what auto email does. So the presumption with this webinar is that you have already performed a search. So I went ahead and did a search earlier just to make it a little quicker and easier for us to start working with just specifically the auto email portion. Again, if you have any matrix questions, how-tos, how to get to this point, you're welcome to reach out to me, email or call, and I can try to address those as they come up here today as well. So again, presuming that I've painstakingly put in my criteria, beds, baths, price range, stories, pool, geography, whatever it is that was relevant to that consumer, I would get a list that looks something like this. And then toward the bottom, once you click and pick properties, save is where you'll begin the auto email process. So something that's important to note is if I painstakingly read through and I think that only these few are going to be of interest to this particular client, when I start the auto email process, the default settings are to email anything that meets the criteria. So even though I've only selected a few here, it's going to deliver all 22 unless I enable the concierge mode. So just be aware of that. Again, we're going to do all that together today, so no worries there. One other thing that is of some importance is you have to have somebody to send it to. And there are two different ways you can do this. If you go to My Matrix, kind of hover on My Matrix up there and then click Contacts, you can easily see your contacts that are already saved to the system. You can also add a new contact from here. Starting the auto email process allows you to quickly add a contact inside the auto email too. So you don't necessarily have to add the person from the contact list. You do have to have a person to complete the auto email. So just quickly, let me add in another one of my amazing clients. I don't know if y'all caught a glimpse of my client list as I was scrolling through, but got some amazing clients there. So again, back to my property search. Down at the bottom in the submenu there, I'll click Save. And then you do have two different choices, new saved search and new auto email. Obviously, both have their individual purposes. I'm just focusing on the one today. A saved search is not automated, hence the names. It does allow you to save any number of custom searches with your specific criteria. You can open and manually run those searches and check out the results to a saved search anytime you want. Auto email, again, is automatically emailing a consumer. All right, so if we click New Auto Email, anything in yellow in Matrix is required. So clearly, again, I have to send it to somebody. And then it says subject here, it's the subject line of the email that they're going to get, but it's also the name of your custom search. I typically call mine something fairly descriptive like homes with a pool in Afton Oaks, 350 to 450, something like that, so that it makes sense to me later. If you have multiple searches attached to a consumer, perhaps you have an investor. He doesn't care where the deal is, he just wants a really good deal. So maybe you have a Clear Lake custom search and a Midtown and Katy, Northwest Houston, multiple searches. When I receive my copy of it, if it was just search for Joe Investor, well, I'm not going to have any idea which one's what and contains what. So again, it lets the consumer know that you paid attention and where you're searching and what it's for, but also helps you a lot. Again, my personal preference there, but you can name it whatever you'd like. Again, you have the ability to create a new contact from here. I just chose to show you the contact menu and do it from there first. So Hannah Barbera is now someone I can choose. Again, it's blind carbon copying me on all these emails. Again, that's my preference for names, is to leave it something pretty descriptive about where I'm searching and what kind of properties it results in. And then down into the welcome email. So you can see here there is some verbiage. I don't talk like that, so I definitely tend to tweak that verbiage whenever I use it. First and foremost, officially, the web page that you're creating for the consumers, where all the results, all the properties that meet their criteria will live, is called, quote unquote, the portal. Consumers don't care that it's called the portal officially. They, use the name or don't use the name. It's totally up to you. What they care about is how it works and what they can get out of it informationally, and then how to reach you back should they need you in any way. So again, if you don't want to write, welcome to the portal, you don't have to. Tweak this verbiage any way that you would like. When we get to previewing the portal here in just a moment, I'll elaborate on this just a bit. One of the lines here in the second paragraph says that they can categorize them. The way that it works is a little quirky. There's a heart by each property, and I think most of us associate the heart with like favoriting, but they get 3 different choices: favorites, possibility, and discard. I don't intuitively think to click a heart to get discard, but that's how that works. So again, when you see it and you understand more about how it works and what it looks like, you could maybe word this a little differently, but I would definitely want to probably include some verbiage on explaining the heart doesn't just only represent positive, loving it, it represents at all the 3 categories that they have access to. And again, just make it, your own voice, however you'd like it to sound, and convey the content that you'd like to. And then in the lower right corner, there's a little gray gear. It looks like a little cog or a gear. You would definitely probably want to set that as your default message so that you don't have to rewrite that every time. If you come up with a really great kind of generic what this is, how it works, call me if you need me, that kind of thing, then you can set that as your default. Anything that you customize in this box, if you don't set it as your default, it's specific just to this one person. So if Hannah's my aunt or something, I could, sign it with, tell the cousins I said hi, or something in the verbiage. I don't know that you would necessarily, but you could. And then a little extra toward the top, there's a recurring email. So this verbiage, the welcome email, is just saying essentially, I made a thing for you and here's how the thing works. The recurring email is what they get on every subsequent email notification. So they get the welcome message just to let them know you've created something and started the auto email process for them. The recurring verbiage is what they get whenever there's a price change, status change, or a new listing that hits the market that meet their criteria. I personally, again, elaborate on this a little bit more. Rather than it only saying 1 or more new/updated listings match your criteria, I would say, here's an update. Use the heart to do this. Again, elaborate on that just a little bit. Your personal preference. Again, there's a separate gear for the recurring email verbiage. So once you get that all squared away, both sets of verbiage, be sure that you're saving both. And then a little further down, I have my signature in Matrix. It says there you can edit that. So you can easily change that on the fly if you need to do that. That is, again, something that's covered in our Matrix 1 class. If I have a few moments toward the end, and if anyone's interested, I'll show you where you can set your signature up within Matrix. Moving on down the road here, criteria is just overviewing everything that I put in there. Again, I did that off camera just to get us rolling on the auto email setup portion, but where I had gone into criteria and specified a price range, status, shape and size of home, whatever it might be. I'm going to skip settings a moment and hit schedule first and then just back up to those settings. The default schedule is daily, once a day in the AM. So those are going to go out early in the morning-ish, 6-ish to 8-ish, somewhere in that range. It only goes out once a day by default. So again, just being aware of how it works, that might not work for you. If a new listing hits the market at like 10 in the morning, y'all aren't getting your email notifications until the next morning. So you can change that. Again, just kind of know your target audience. If it is that investor and just a delivery of stuff once a day would be fine or whatever, then that's fine. If you want to turn on PM, they get one in the morning, early morning, and one in the evening. Again, only 2 notifications a day, and only that meets their criteria. So if they're looking for that, special unicorn, there just isn't going to be a 9-bedroom home with 12 baths and a unicorn on the 3rd floor all that often. So they're not getting tons of email anyway, depending on their criteria. All right. Let me go over to my question here. Rita says, did you say we have to set the welcome and recurring email? Again, there's some default verbiage in this welcome email and recurring email section. If you're happy with what it says, then that's fine. You don't have to change anything other than just picking your person and doing the criteria portion of the search. But I was suggesting that potentially you would want to reword that, yes. Again, it's just not my style. If it's your style and it works fine, then that's okay too. No worries either way. All right, just be aware that that's a choice should you want to change it. Thank you so much for that question. Y'all don't forget, you can send me your questions if you need anything. All right, so back in our schedule here, again, maybe once a day, twice a day works, maybe it doesn't. ASAP at the top there is another option. The system automatically runs the search about every 20 minutes. If it finds something new or changed, it sends us emails. If it doesn't find any new or changed listings, it waits and tries again in another 20 minutes. So that probably is for your more typical customer, client, consumer scenarios. They typically want to be notified as soon as something happens on the market or hits the market. So that's probably what you'd want. Again, know your target audience. Each situation's different, so whatever works for that particular customer or client. The last option that you have toward the bottom there is monthly. Monthly emails are sent on the 1st of the month at midnight. This one, again, doesn't seem like your typical everyday buyer scenario, but there are instances where that could also be helpful to you. If, for instance, instead of picking an actual consumer, I just picked myself, I wouldn't blind carbon copy myself at that point, but I could just have monthly updates sent to me in the area where I'm trying to build business, my sphere, the old neighborhood where I grew up, whatever it is, maybe once a month is fine on that kind of delivery. Or again, just a lukewarm buyer who's just not really in a spot yet to actively purchase a home. They're just kind of sort of looking right now. You can deliver them a little bit less frequently, just depending on y'all's preferences. All right, I got another question coming in here. Thank you, Tracy. Is it possible to run the search and send the first email with concierge mode so that they don't get 80 listings in the first email and have it set for daily after that? It is, so it's only sending new listings and changes. Absolutely, yes. I couldn't have timed your question more perfectly. Very next thing I'm going to talk about is concierge mode. So remember I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, I had 22 results, I believe it was. It was going to send all 22. That's the default, is it sends everything that meets this criteria. But like she said, maybe I don't want to send them a gazillion all at once because we just learned their criteria and we're just getting to know each other. They don't really know what they want yet, potentially, and I don't maybe understand exactly what they want yet. but I can probably guess they don't want to have to weed through 250 listings. 250 is the max, by the way, that you can send by auto email. Concierge mode lets me pick and choose what I want to send them. So maybe out of that 22, I had already showed them 3 of them and they hated them. I don't want to include those 3, right? They're never going to buy the house with the cell phone tower in the backyard. They're just not. So I don't want to keep sending them updates on that. Concierge lets me do that. So if I check concierge mode, in the next step, I'd be able to pick and choose and check only a select few that I want to release to Hannah, my client, and then approve just those few. You can then turn off concierge mode whenever you want. You can also enable concierge mode anytime you want. So if it started out not concierge, you can switch and vice versa, right? And we'll do the concierge steps together in just a moment. I just want to finish out these few. The ASAP and daily and monthly are no longer relevant if you turn on concierge mode. The frequency that the client gets emails at that point is dependent upon you. It emails you to say there is an update for Hanna-Barbera. If you don't click the link and open the email and address the concierge delivery, they don't get anything. You have to physically pick some properties and approve or release them to your client for that client to get them. So again, just be aware of that. Let me see if it shows you. Back up at the top here, because I have so many fake clients in there. No, not to disappoint any of you, I don't know Hanna-Barbera or Snoop Dogg or any of those folks that were my client list. So I've never addressed the auto emails and actually allowed any listings to go off to the email address that I have associated with those. So this could be a bad thing in real life, right? I've got 312 listings all stacked up in there waiting for me to do something, and my clients have gotten nothing. So just be aware of that. Again, you're going to get an email. It clearly explains how to do the process, but we're going to do it together in a second. The next item here, show this contact in reverse prospecting. So this is something that's enabled automatically. Obviously, you can uncheck the box if you'd like to do that. Reverse prospecting is designed for agent-to-agent communication. So I'm about to save this search, and I have those 20-some listings as results, potentially, let's say, 20 different listing agents. They get an email letting them know Marilyn Maxwell just saved a search and your listing is one of the results within her search. They have a ID number assigned to my client. They don't have any personalized information about the person I created the search for. They just have a means of contacting me. So if their listing rather, is part of my search and they know the price just reduced and it hasn't hit MLS yet, or they're, fixing the replacing the carpet today, or whatever it is, it's going to be open this weekend. Any of those types of things, an agent, the listing agent, can contact this prospective buyer's agent just to kind of be in touch, get the ball rolling, see if there are any questions, and that type of thing. So that's the idea behind reverse prospecting. Again, if you don't want to get or have those emails sent to listing agents, just uncheck the box and that's fine. You obviously have this option on every single auto email that you set up. So maybe this time I don't want it, next time I do want it. Again, whatever is relevant to that individual situation. The very last option here, enable as a favorite on the Home tab. Again, they go over widgets in a bit in the Matrix 1 classroom training, as well as the Matrix 2 class. So this Market Watch, Hot Sheet, those are widgets technically, but there's one called My Favorite Searches. And you can have 10 favorites, just like real life. You don't have, not everybody's your favorite, but you can just streamline the process of opening and viewing the results of that search. Auto emails or saved searches can make up that top 10, but that's where the favorites, quote unquote, display. So rather than having to go to My Matrix, auto emails, click the name of the search, click results, and then see the results of my search criteria, I can just click right here and see the results of my criteria. So that's the idea behind those favorites. So presuming I've painstakingly made all my choices and I'm happy with all of this good stuff, I'll hit save and go to approvals. Again, if I'm not using concierge mode, I would just hit save. It immediately sends all 22. My client gets an email and can go through the process of viewing the portal, clicking their little heart and all that good stuff. Concierge, one more step for me. pick and choose the properties I actually want to release to that client. So the far left column is the only thing that looks slightly different than the typical matrix results. Across the top, again, it's giving me kind of an overview of the title I gave it and that they are not yet visible to my client. I've not released anything or approved anything for Hanna-Barbera. The far left column, it's a little tough to see. The color coding makes it a little hard, but it says never. That means I have never emailed that property to that client. With you here today, I just added Hanna-Barbera, so nothing has been sent to Hannah because I just added her. She's just new to my system. But had I ever had her in my contact list before and I manually emailed or auto-emailed her one of these listings by way of one of those other means, it would have a date stamp right here so I would know. Did I send that to her? Yep, that's right. I did send that to her on Tuesday. That's fine. So I could choose not to release it to her in this auto email, or I could. Anything you manually email after you've created an auto email gets added to their auto email. So let me say that again. So I create this auto email for Hanna-Barbera. She's being hand-delivered, new listings, price changes, status changes. Maybe one day while I'm searching through Matrix, I find one that's just barely outside her price range, so it's never going to be part of her auto email. But it's been on the market a while. I really feel like we could negotiate down into her price range and make that one work. If I just use the manual email at the bottom of Matrix results to send it to Hannah, it adds it to her portal, and she then begins receiving auto emails about that one add-on type listing as well, just like she gets an email with all the others. Now that one property is included in the updates along with all the others. I felt like my grammar was a little weird on the first run through, so if that didn't make sense, let me know. One last little tidbit here that is different from the typical property results is this little gray box. It looks a lot like the checkbox that you are used to in your typical matrix results, but this is a note, like a little sticky note. Pros and cons to notes. Anything that you put in a note never can be edited or deleted, so just be really mindful of how you word those things. If it's anything time sensitive, put dates in there. You know, like a listing agent says they're going to replace the carpet. Well, maybe by the time my person reads it, it's months later and they've already replaced the carpet, but my person just doesn't like the carpet. Now it appears as if I've told them they will replace the carpet, maybe at the buyer's discretion, right? It can be inferred that I meant something other than what I meant. So listing agent says carpet replaced February 2020 or February 12th or, you know, whatever. So again, just be mindful of that. Also, your clients can write notes. So when that consumer receives their portal, if they want to make some notes, they can make them here on their version rather, and you could see them within Matrix. And again, we'll do it together so you'll have a visual and an example. All right, so let's just say I've painstakingly read through, and these few are the ones that are my little golden unicorns that I want to send off. Again, toward the bottom there, you can see approve selected. So the client would only get those few that I have checked. I would continue to get concierge updates about these I didn't check. So should they become more appealing because of price changes or whatever else that occurs, I could later choose to send it on to Hannah. I'm just not right now. My scenario earlier where I said maybe I've shown them 3 properties and they hate it, there's nothing ever that's going to convince them to purchase it. Backs up to the railroad tracks or whatever it is that just was really not their thing. There is an option to reject at the bottom as well. Be really mindful of how you use the reject because you don't ever get notified about the property again if you reject it. So it isn't just that we don't care for it right now, you never know about it. Price changes, status changes, any of that any further. So if you don't ever want to hear about it again either and you're 100% confident that your client's not going to want to, reject would work. Again, just don't send it, but keep your eye on it if that works better for you and your client in that situation. And then the last 2 options down there are to print or email a PDF of the listing data sheets and or get driving directions to these properties. Like if you were going to show the properties, it gives you a Google Maps route from the first destination to the second to the third to the fourth to the fifth. Again, good functionality, just not on our focus today. So I'll hit approve selected. Now Hannah just gets these 11. As it verifies right there. Again, I'll show you the portal here in a second, and these will just kind of hang out in that auto email area as results. Again, I only know about them, not Hannah. All right. So where do we go to find the auto email once it's sent? Again, pretty intuitive naming convention up here, My Matrix, and then auto emails. You also got an email, so you were blind carbon copied if you'll recall. It's got a link in there. You have a link in your email that is an agent-centric report, so it'll allow you to open the properties in Matrix, which lets you see your showing instructions, listing agent information, all that good stuff. What the consumer gets is a consumer-centric version of the property details. So it's pulling off the listing agent contact information and putting you as the presented by agent. Again, all of the contact between the consumer is back to you. So any leads, any questions, anything is all generated in emails back to you. All right. So in that auto email section, you can see all of my, again, handful of auto emails that I already saved previously that are delivering properties. Pros and cons to this. Again, it's sending a bunch of stuff on my behalf, and it may or may not be something that the consumer is opening and interacting with. Like I said earlier, I've got all fake clients in here except for this one down here, which is me. I open my own stuff from myself, but nobody else ever does. So this never over here on the right means they're never clicking the link I've sent them. They are therefore eventually going to stop receiving those auto email notifications. So they get an email message that says, Marilyn's created this for you. Here's a link to click to open. If they don't click and open it, eventually it'll give up on them. So it stops sending that altogether. You get an email to let you know the auto emails have stopped because that client was clearly not interested in that auto email or wasn't interacting in any way, so it quits. If you'll notice the test of agent report that I have down here, it's a little green circle, so green for go. These are going out. And this person is actually clicked and opened and is interacting with the email. So the solid green circles with the little check are the ones you really want to focus on. Those are the people who are really interacting, who are getting what you send and opening what you send. All right. If you had ones with a little red mark, little red circle means it has stopped going. Again, kind of elementary school color coding, right? Green for go, red for stop. So when the client gets their email, or consumer, customer, client, whatever they are at that stage, when that consumer gets the email, there's a link in that, an option in there to opt out of getting these auto emails as well. So if at any point they click that, again, you get notified by email that that client has opted out of receiving those emails from you. You can enable it again. You can re-enable it anytime. If you click the little kind of drop-down menu next to any search, it allows you to edit certain parts of it. Settings relates to the auto email settings, like concierge or not, like we were discussing a moment ago. Change the verbiage of the emails, any of those pieces in there. So here it says disabled. A little further down in settings, I can enable it again. Again, I can change from concierge to not concierge, all of those options. Okay. And again, it's a fake one being sent to my own email, so it just doesn't let me play with concierge mode for that example. All right, so let's look at the one that we just created a moment ago. This Homes from Ireland, Hanna-Barbera. They're alphabetized by last name of the client. So again, alphabetically, Hannah's is first on the list. Like I said, if you click the little drop down, you go into settings, that's your auto email settings, concierge or not, verbiage, so forth. Criteria is your property search criteria. So pool or no pool in this price range, what I drew on the map, whatever my criteria was, it will instantly take me to where I can edit that criteria. So here's what I typed in before I logged in with you guys, and I can tweak that at any point. All right, and map area is selected, meaning I drew on the map. So this is a little different than it looks, again, when you're doing a typical search in Matrix. You usually have the tab for maps up here in the upper right. If you're editing an auto email, you have to click this little map search menu item to open the map. And then you can add more polygons or squares or edit the ones you've already got on there. All right. Sorry, my internet seems to have gotten a little slow. There we go. Results just runs the search and gives me the latest, greatest results to the search. So I may or may not have the same listings as I had yesterday if I run the search again today, but that's the whole idea, is I can manually run it and check up on the results. Date since gives you results since you last clicked results, meaning it's 10:30 now. If I click results, I get the latest and greatest results to everything that meets the criteria. Date since, let's say I come in at 2 in the afternoon and I hit date since, it's only going to show me what's new or changed from 10:30 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, not everything that meets the criteria, which is what results does. Market update is similar to date since, but it allows me to put in a custom date range. So I could see what was the result, what would have been the results a month ago or last year or a week ago or whatever it might be. So everything that meets the criteria, an update since you last checked out the results, and then a more specific time frame search in Market Update. Open in Portal is what your clients see. That's the web page that they'll see. I'll open that in a moment. Resend that welcome email. If they didn't open it, you can resend it. If they go, oh yeah, that's what that was, huh? Yeah, I deleted that. You can resend it. And then of course, deleting the auto email deletes the auto email. I didn't talk about it earlier, but if you check the little box off to the side like I did when I showed you the example of disabled searches, you do also have the option to delete. It is gone forever when you delete it. Disable it if you just feel like they don't right now want to buy a house like this in this place, but they might later. Delete it if they're not responding, they've gone AWOL on you, whatever it is. Delete it when you don't need it, disable it when you need it. All right, so backing up here to open in Portal. This again is going to be like what your consumer would see. There it is. Technology is grand when it works. A little quirky sometimes. So these are those 11 hand-picked listings that I sent to my dear friend Hanna-Barbera. Again, next to each property, you can see a heart. If you hover on the heart, it says save as favorite, but if you click it, you get favorite, possibility, and discard. Again, my humble personal opinion is that's kind of counterintuitive. So again, the verbiage, you would want to explain that a little bit, make that clear. If they click any one of those categories, it changes the symbol and helps them kind of have visuals on the map as well. All right. Also, slightly counterintuitively, up at the top where it says favorites, anything they've put in a category of any kind also lives in favorites. So this list is everything that meets their criteria that I released to them, that I sent to them. Favorites is just those that they've put into categories. So I have the one in favorites, one possibility, and one discarded property. If I click the little trash can over here, I can remove it from the discards at any point. They use undiscard back on the agent results page, by the way, right? Obviously, same thing with the others. Remove it from possibility, remove it from favorites, change the category I've put it in, all right? Back to the searches. Again, I only have this one search attached to Hanna-Barbera, but I could have multiple searches so that person could click and open each individual property list. They're not all in one big lump of results. They're separated by the individual search names. Right? If we click the address of the property, that's where we can get to that little notes page. They can click the little arrows on the photo gallery to scroll through the thumbnails of the photos or see bigger versions of that if they click and open. So here's, again, a little indicator of my status, my category. It's a possibility. It's a map to the property, some basic cookie cutter facts, and then larger photos. If we click there, we get the matrix photo gallery, which again, you're probably used to seeing on your side of things from Matrix. All right. And then a little further down below the picture is where that note would go. So again, Hannah can make notes or I can make notes. At this stage, I could write her a note, and that's what I mentioned earlier is not editable or deletable, to use more Marylandisms here. All right, so be aware of that. And then again, it's pretty basic stuff about the home, a little map over here on the right, the cookie cutter facts. It's a pretty good amount of information. Again, there's nothing on here that's not consumer appropriate. So the listing agent contact info, anything related to appointments, all that stuff is automatically pulled off of there for you. by the Matrix system just by way of you using one of their consumer-centric products. All right, last little tidbit on this page. Check for questions real quick. No questions coming in. This My Agent section, this is again another option in the same area where you can set up your email signature. You can enable this My Agent page. That is a whole lot of Maryland for me when I'm only sending it to myself all the time. So in real life, I don't know if I would or wouldn't use it, but that section again is fairly simple to set up, and we'll cover that real quickly here in this webinar today. All right. Any questions so far? Again, shoot those to me if you need to. This is your BCC portal, your version of the portal. Again, you can run the search results anytime that you want as well and see the matrix version where you can, again, see that the client has marked it as a favorite, a possibility, discarded, so I know exactly what they've done and all of that good stuff. You can see the date that I used that I sent the property to them, and then you can tell, of course, that I've never emailed the others. So there's your visual on that thing that we discussed before. All right, a couple of little settings things. So related to that My Agent tab, if we go to My Matrix, My Information, the Email Signature tab, second from the right here at the top, is where you can go and configure that email signature. So if you hadn't done that already, you could see how that could be helpful to have your name, phone numbers, emails, all that good stuff in there. Your only requirement is name and brokerage firm name, so be really sure that you have that information in there. I always have to say, be sure to defer to the TXR and NAR marketing standards and guidelines. Also, check with your broker, make sure of how they would like you to display certain information and things like that. All right. Got another question coming. So if someone has bought a house and no longer wishes to be emailed, where is it again that we stop those emails? So that would be your auto email section, My Matrix auto emails. And then that little check mark to the far left, and disable or delete at the bottom, just depending on which of those two you'd really want to do. I have terrible eyesight. I believe that that says Nurit. I can't tell if there's an I after the R or not. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but thank you for your question. You can also go into the settings and choose disable from within the settings, but this one's the most streamlined, simplest way to do that. All right. One last little tidbit for you guys. Back in the My Information, the My Agent tab that we looked at, on the setup for you guys, it's called Portal Profile, quote unquote. I don't know why they call it two different things, but there you go. So earlier we saw my picture, little blurb about me, and how fantastical I am to all my fake clients. Under Portal Greeting, that's where I wrote all that stuff. If you want to use the tab, you want that tab enabled, check the little circles. If you don't want the tab enabled, you don't have any content you want to put there, just uncheck the circles. And then this whole My Agent section doesn't have anything there for consumers. Again, if you want to have a reiteration of your photo, have that in there. If you've got one of those personal profile videos, I just like George Strait. I don't have a video about myself in there. But if you did, you can check the little circle. Again, fairly self-explanatory titles here, inventory and slideshow, where it would show your active listings, your new listings, your firm's listings. So those would be, again, pieces of this My Agent tab. Down at the bottom, I just have it showing my contact info, but it would include links to my listings, my firm's listings, etc., just depending on what I picked here. I don't have any listings because I'm an employee here at HAR, so there we go. And then the contact info, again, that's at the very bottom of mine. All right, so that again is My Matrix, My Information, and then we just kind of followed the breadcrumb steps across the top to do the email signature and portal profile tabs if you are interested in configuring those. There you go. One last piece that will be of interest, pardon me, also in the My Matrix drop down, hover on My Matrix, then click Settings. So the portal that we just created blind carbon copied you by email, but it didn't notify you by default. It does not notify you whether the client marks something as a favorite or a possibility or anything like that. So what we showed you a moment ago, what I showed you a moment ago, where you have to just open and run the search and check it out and go to the contacts list, maybe check out, see if they've done anything. That's really not a very efficient way to handle that. So I'm again in my matrix settings. Toward the very bottom, it says portal notifications settings. You can enable text and or email notifications about these things. Again, personal preference. Whatever works for you, do that. If it doesn't work for you, don't do that. Visits portal. Do you want a text or an email every single time they click that link and open their portal? I personally would not. That's a little too much. I don't care so much that they opened it 52 times today. I want to know what they did next. Did they mark it as a favorite or not, right? Or write a note. The daily summary comes out in the evening, 6-ish to 8-ish. So maybe I do want one email at the end of the day that shows me, you know, these 4 people open their portal today and are actively participating. That would be nice to know, but I don't need to know every time they do it, right? But I do want a text right away when somebody marks it as a favorite, let's say, or I want to know by email if they add a note, because favorite, again, to me feels more time sensitive. Again, use your own personal preference there. You can get texts and emails and summaries about those things, so just depending on what the thing is and how informed you want to be about the thing, make your own choices. If you do choose to use the text version of notifications, you have to just enable your cell to receive those. Give the matrix system permission, basically, to use your phone number. Pick your cellular provider and then click send a notification code. The verification code, again, tells Matrix's system that you are allowed to receive third-party auto notifications by text. All right, so you would click send me the verification code, then in the next step here on the screen, you type in that verification code, and that enables text delivery. All right, you can change this, again, anytime that you would want. So maybe I want to get an email on the first time, I don't want to get an email on the first time, I want to change that later. This is global for everybody getting auto emails from you. So this is specific to every single person marking something as a favorite. This is specific to every single person who opens the portal. I get a summary at the end of the day. All right, so just make sure you're aware of that settings option. The last tidbit for our time today, we have a little under 15 minutes left to go. Alyssa says, if we check multiple options in the daily summary email, that will send one email showing favorites, possibilities, etc. Sends a summary email per item. So if I were to click removes from a favorite, adds notes, and opens portal, I'm getting 3 different emails for each of the individual categories. Another Marylandism I have is sorry and you're welcome, right? It's a lot of emails, potentially depending on how many I click, but it's one email about the one activity that may or may not be relevant to me in that moment. All right, thank you, Alyssa, appreciate your question. All right, loving all the questions today. Thanks, everybody. Last thing that I wanted to touch on a bit more was contacts in general and specifically the reverse prospecting. Contacts I showed you just in a brief moment when I added Hanna-Barbera earlier. Going back to contacts and spending just a moment longer. If you'll notice toward the top right here, there are several columns: cart, notes, hearts, light bulbs, and garbage cans. So favorites, possibilities, discard. If I find Hanna-Barbera, you'll see there's a number 1. So Hanna-Barbera has 1 favorite, 1 possibility, and 1 discard. This little number over here is totally random. You don't need to know it for anything. It's related to the reverse prospecting. So the listing agents of the properties that were results got an email that says Marilyn Maxwell has a consumer with the ID number 34018 and your listing was part of her search, right? So again, they don't know anything about Hanna-Barbera, they don't know the email, they don't know anything about the client, anything about my search criteria, they just know their listing showed up as a result. Good question, Tanya. Can a client run a search from the portal themselves? They can. I'll take you back there just in a moment. I'll show you that real quickly. Actually, I'll just do it now because I might forget. So excellent, yes. Find a home. in the upper left corner there is where they can do that, Tanya. So you can click Find a Home as the consumer, do a search, a fairly minimal search. I'm trying to get it where you can see the whole thing on the screen. They can search by map. They can do kind of an abbreviated property search. They can type an address up here. Again, it's a little tough to see, but in the upper right corner of the map, they can click and draw and say, look for property over there. And so that then becomes part of their auto email. Anything generated from that search is routed back to you. So they, again, don't see a listing agent contact info, that type of thing. Thank you, Tanya. Great question. Alyssa, once a home has been emailed to a client, can the agent delete that home in the portal or only the client? You can, and they can. So you could open their portal like we have here and discard it. You can also, in your Matrix auto notifications, hit that reject option that we talked about, so we would no longer get notifications about it after that point. If it's in the discarded section on the portal, the client can take it out of discards. So again, know your target audience. If the price goes down, they'll become more and more and more excited about it maybe, but right now they don't like it, so that would be more of a discard inside the portal than a reject and never hear about it again process in my mind. All right, I'm just going to quickly be somebody else. Again, I'm an employee here at HAR, so I don't have any listings. I got nothing in that regard. I have a lot of other really cool stuff. Listings is not one of them. So I'm going to pretend to be someone else. Please don't do this in real life. You're not supposed to log in as other people, so don't do that. This is just a test account that we have. Also, while I'm here, a little plug for myself, if I could. Every month we have a different webinar. So the Perks of Platinum webinar, as it says here, is offered every other month. So coming up in March, that's what I'll be doing, 10 to 11. And April 14th, I'm going to be covering Market Insight. So again, every month we've got a different webinar on a tool of some sort, an HAR tool. This happens to be a Matrix tool. The full calendar shows you that we have quite a few other webinars. We've got a property management series, a broker-centric series coming soon. So check those out if you are interested in more webinars. All right, so reverse prospecting, the last thing that I wanted to show you here. If we go to my Matrix, my listings, you may be seeing a theme here. Anything really related to you is in my Matrix. And here are those that have been sent to people by reverse prospecting. So I can see our tracking of reverse prospecting. So I can see the hit counters. This particular listing of mine has shown up in 34 different portals. This one was in 260 different client portals. So again, as the listing agent, that's how, sorry, I'm trying to zoom out, not click. That's how my listings personally have performed. So if I click on 34, for instance, here, the historical views, how popular it is, how amazing it is. All right, so again, it's just kind of a hit counter is what it's called to let you know how many folks are seeing your particular properties. You would have also gotten emails about all those, so you can easily send that to, say, the client or something like that. Okay, I'm running low on time, so I won't hack into Shad's account and actually send things, but that's just a quick overview of where you can find your hit counters, they call it, for reverse prospecting. All right, that brings me to the end of all the things that I was going to cover with you guys today. Thank you for your amazing questions along the way. We still have, by my clock, 4 whole minutes. So again, if you want to shoot any questions real quickly, general Matrix things or related to auto emails, send those in now. Don't forget about the help menu. Inside Matrix, if you click help, for instance, auto email or reverse prospecting, they've got a quick start guide about the whole program, and then they've got quick tips for refining your auto emails, editing the criteria, again, a lot of the things that we talked about today, and then how to disable is there as well. You are all more than welcome to reach out to me at any point. and let me know if I can be of help. Again, I greatly appreciate you being here today. 70-some folks giving up an entire hour of your morning on a Tuesday. Really appreciate that. I, again, work here full-time, so if you need a matrix thing or an HAR tool thing and a question, need help in any way, just let me know. Thank you, Jeanette and Nurit and Cecilia. Thank you all so much for saying such nice words. Y'all are just too much, my little fan club today. I'm going to go ahead and log out. Again, thank you very much for your time. I'll see you online again next month and or in a classroom sometime in one of the Matrix classes even maybe. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.